Hey, this is Molly Patrick, and you're listening to the Clean Food Dirty Girl podcast. We are all about helping people eat more plants and celebrating imperfection as we navigate life's messiness. Today, I have a guest on with me. I am talking with Kate, who has been in our community for actually a really long time and who was in Drop It Club for some time. And I really wanted to talk with you, Kate, because you went through Drop It Club and you experienced some pretty cool shifts and some pretty cool things that weren't necessarily having to do with weight loss. And I know that you
Correct.
did release some weight, but there were some things that, some other things that changed. And so I really wanted to talk with you and to talk about those things and just see what you experienced during this program and what shifted for you. And because I think that so much of this program and about what I teach is so much more than just releasing weight. And I think so many people who go into this with that initial idea of like, well, that initial motivation of like, well, I am here because I want to release weight. That does happen, but it seems like a lot of people over this past year, that has all of a sudden become like secondary, or maybe like, okay, that's still there, but there's this other stuff that's happening that might be even more interesting and more
Absolutely.
kind of life changing. So I'm going to just read to you. You sent this beautiful email, and I want to just talk about a few little things from that email. And so the first one was that you um you experienced a shift around drinking and drinking a lot less. So can we just start with that? Because I think that's huge.
Absolutely. That's the hugest thing that has happened. Um, and when I joined Drop It, it was to drop weight. I had just put on a lot of weight at my age, menopause, all that. But I also needed help with drinking because I had been drinking daily and didn't think much of it because it was just my world that I was in. And everybody around me was doing the same thing. So I thought, well, I can. Part of this program was to reduce my drinking, and what you were asking of me was very, very doable. So I
Okay.
was like, okay, this is good. I can do this. Um, and then throughout all of your coaching that I watched, so some of the videos you made, and then the coaching, um, when when you were helping people with a problem, somehow I could always relate to that, even if it wasn't the exact same problem, like midnight snacking. I could say, oh, midnight drinking or
Mm.
things like that. Um, and I used your techniques to help me eventually quit drinking. I've never said I quit drinking before in my life, and I'm 3 months, no alcohol at all. I feel great. And
Wow.
it has been absolutely life changing. So much more than dropping the weight, which
Yeah.
is great also. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's amazing.
Wow, that's so cool. So, I mean, first, congrats, because 3 months, that's a big deal. I mean, that's a significant amount of time to go when you're a daily drinker.
Yeah.
And I know that because I was a daily drinker too. And that first 3 months, it's like, I don't know about you, but when I hit that, I was like, I can't believe I can't believe I did that. I was so surprised. I mean, I wanted to and I was working on it, but there was still something about it that, like, I went a whole 3 months. Like,
Hmm.
does it feel almost unbelievable to you in a way?
It feels like a giant weight has been lifted.
Mm.
Um, and it feels more unbelievable that I drank all the time and didn't think too much of it.
Mhm.
Um, and really how much it affected me because of how I'm daily feeling better and better. Um,
Okay. So that's interesting. So you went into it wanting to release a little bit of weight, but you really knew that you wanted to kind of look at your drinking.
mhm.
And so you went into it with that intention. And what's interesting is because I tell, like, and you've heard it during the videos, but also a lot in the coaching calls. What I say is, like, you can take what I'm talking about and how I'm coaching people and the methods that I use, you can take this if, maybe I'm coaching one person about, on food or snacking or, processing your feelings, but you can apply that to like so many other areas of your life. And you are really wise to like spin that in a way that worked for your particular situation because it's the same stuff. Right, to
Absolutely. Yep.
whether you're trying to, like, get off sugar or just stop snacking on ultra processed foods or, um, what all of the many things that we do in Drop It Club, a and, like, I should say that because there are some things around alcohol in Drop It, and in phase 1, we say, "Okay, just cut your alcohol in half,"
Mhm.
and then if you get to phase 2, cut your alcohol in half again. And it's not like, don't ever do it, like, right? It's like, so did you do that? Did you cut it in half? Or
Yes.
did you just stop right away?
No, I cut it in half. I
Okay.
cut it in half and, um, yeah,
And so that felt like it was doable for you. You were able to
very
kind of
doable.
like wean yourself off in a way?
Yep, yep,
Okay.
and all along, again, using your techniques to change my mindset,
Mhm.
to change my thoughts, which changed my behavior, and eventually it was a major shift to where I said, "I want to be done with this," because I had never said that before. I said, "Oh, I wanna cut back, I wanna,"
Yeah.
but I've never been done with it until that shift happened, and I thank you, I owe that to you, really. Your coaching is remarkable and
Oh.
wonderful and life-changing, life-altering.
Oh, well, thank you for those words. That means a lot. And you know, but my coaching wouldn't do anything if you weren't ready. You
That's
know?
true,
I mean,
that's
you were
true.
at a point in your life where you were ready to look at this and you were open to being done with it. Even if you didn't walk into it thinking, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to do this so that I can quit drinking. You were
Yeah, I didn't
open.
think I had no I just wanted to cut back,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what made you want to cut back? Was it like were you just feeling it physically or like
Yeah,
explain to me like what prompted you to want to cut back?
health health reasons is
Yeah.
really the only thing, um, because my social circle, my, circumstances, it's ingrained in there,
Yeah.
so I had many excuses why I can't or, why I have to, um, but I dealt with those again through your program.
Yeah. Wow, and how so I have two questions come to the top of my mind. One is how long did that from the time you joined to the time that shift happened where you're like, "Oh, I think I wanna be done." How long was that?
So 3 months?
3 months. It's not long.
It's 3
Yeah.
about 3. 2
Okay.
2, 3. I'm having to go back because that's
Yeah.
3 months I quit. When did I join?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty remarkable, and then the people in your life, because you say you were, like, you were, in your environment, there were people who were drinking as well. Have they been supportive of you in this new journey of yours?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And was that scary for you or was that hard for you to do this even though the people around you weren't?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
hard, it's hard to go certain places. The first time always,
Yeah.
it was hard to go back to a bar and, have a soda the
Yes.
first time, but no, that worked. It was fine.
Yeah.
It went fine. I'd made up the story in my head that it was gonna go be bad, and that's that's not what happened, so
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that you say like, "Yeah, I was scared." Like, "Yeah, that was scary." And like, I love it because you are owning that. You're not saying that like, "Oh, no, it was totally fine." I mean, there were emotions that came with that and it was okay. And
Yep.
you were able to do it. And so that is, you know, yeah, I talk about that a lot too in the coaching. Like, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to feel nervous. Like, we should be feeling those things. And so, yeah, well, that's amazing. I'm really really happy for you. Do you feel like this is something that you wanna continue on with
Yeah,
and that you can see yourself just kinda keep going in this direction?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, how has how nice is it to not wake up with a hangover?
It's it's very nice. Although, hangovers were rare, I would
Uh-huh.
say, because it was I didn't drink a lot, but I drank, again, every day.
Yeah.
So, I shouldn't say they were rare, maybe I just didn't notice that they were hangovers.
Yeah.
I just thought
Right.
it was normal. I get up a lot
Mhm.
earlier now, I go to the gym, which I didn't
Yes.
do before,
Yes. Yeah, well,
so
let's talk about that because one of the things was okay, so the drinking, and then the other thing that you mentioned is that you've lost 10 pounds and you continue to slowly lose,
yeah,
and, that your mom and dad commented, and said last weekend that you look really good, and then you said that you're
yeah,
back to the gym 2 to 3 times a week and getting stronger.
yep.
So was the gym something that you had done previously and then just kind of dropped it and forgot that it existed or just kind of put it on
Yep,
the back burner?
yep, I did it for a little while, and then I dropped it. I just was like, "No," and got out of the habit of doing it, and quite a while went
Mhm.
by. But again, once I was in your program, that motivated me, and just hearing how people would start with just 10 minutes a day, like, "Okay, I can do that. I can get back to 10 minutes a day, 10,"
Yes.
and it just kept going from there because moving your body feels really good.
Yes. Yes. The body wants to move,
Yeah.
and I'm sneaky with that 10 minutes a day because anybody could say, I can do that. Like, nobody's going to make an excuse about 10 minutes a day and not being able to do it. But then once you do that 10 minutes, your body's like, once you're already in it, so often it's like, well, I could probably do another 5 or another 10. And you end up usually doing more than if I were to say, okay, work out for an hour. So many people would be
Right.
like, "Can't do that," and then they're just
Exactly.
not gonna do it.
That's Yep. That's exactly.
Yes.
And hearing other people's success stories, reading about
Mhm.
other people who, said at the beginning of this I could only walk around the block
Yeah.
and now I just did a 5-mile hike. That's very motivating.
It's incredible, and doing
Yeah.
new things like bike riding or swimming or, getting into the gym and starting, weightlifting classes. It is so inspiring to see people just kind of, like, come alive in a new way.
Mhm.
And that does feed, like, I'm inspired by it when I hear people's updates and because as we do, like, scale victories or, like, weight releasing victories, then we do the non-scale victories, which are my personal favorite, and whenever I see somebody, like, starting to move again in a way that they haven't in a while or, haven't ever, it always inspires me to, like, keep moving my body. And so I think we all really inspire each other, which is you said in your email that you used to feel kind of alone in this lifestyle because you had
Oh,
eaten
yes.
a whole food plant-based diet for a while and you've been
Mhm.
in our community since 2017.
Yep.
And so you are an original for sure. And you had felt kind of like alone in this and something shifted in Drop It. And so can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it was actually the connection calls.
Yeah.
Um, and I only did one buddy, um,
The
where I
hangout.
buddied up with somebody, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but that helped a lot too, and just being able to relate to someone that you see again and again because 'cause you're all in the same group,
Yeah.
so or the names,
Hmm.
um, you know, and the Drop It Club, yeah, it just made me feel like there were more people on my side
Yes.
instead of, people, "Oh, eat the chicken, eat this, eat that. You need to eat." You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like you're around people who get it because they're going through it. And it's such a supportive group. We're all cheering each other on. And I think getting that support from people who you didn't know previously, and also that you feel genuinely excited for when you hear updates from as
Yes.
well. Like, there's something that's just so, like, warming about that and satisfying about that. And I know we have a droplet who got married recently, right? And so I was like really looking forward to seeing a picture from her wedding day. And we, there's somebody who went through like a mouse problem in her house, and like we're all invested in like the mouse story and how it's going. And, and I think it is to say like it is a fairly small group. So it feels pretty intimate.
Yes.
And I think that's helpful as well. Well, yeah, that's great. So then I guess it's safe to say that you're kind of the only person in your circle or your group who lives this way. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, my brother and sister-in-law do,
Okay.
so I do have them, but otherwise it's just me.
Yeah.
And my husband is very much a carnivore, so we're a split family. He has his food in the refrigerator and I have mine, and um, we make it work though, but we don't always eat the same thing, of course.
Okay. Well, I think that it's interesting to hear that because there's so many people who are in similar situations and their partners just aren't interested and
Yeah.
aren't going to do it. So how do you make that work? Do you like logistically? Do you cook his food, or does he like do you do like just separate things in the kitchen? Like, and how do you feel about being in a kitchen with meat if you're not eating it? Like, because I know that there's a lot of people who struggle with that. So I'd love to hear
Yeah.
your view on that.
Well, he cooks his own food,
Okay.
and I cook my own food. That's so that makes it easy. And
Yeah.
then sometimes we have completely different meals. Sometimes if he's grilling burgers on the grill, I do the veggie burgers. There are quite a few meals he really likes the pasta meals that I make,
Okay.
your recipes. So he'll eat those. Um and but it works, it really does, and it I was worried about that, and I felt guilty about that
Mm.
also. I felt I had to deal with that, um,
Mm.
feeling like I should be making his food or that I should be eating the same thing so that
Mm.
but again, it we worked it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It works out. When you really want to do something and for reasons that are really important, it'll work.
Yeah. There's always a way.
Very doable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's always a way to figure it out. And I think that you hit it. Like, if it's important enough to you,
yeah,
you're gonna figure out a way. And, most people's partners are not assholes, right? Most people, like, understand. I think it takes, like, communication, and I think that it
yeah,
takes, opening up and sharing, "Hey, this is important to me, and here's why, and this is something that I really want." And I think if you open up in that way, and that requires a little bit of vulnerability, and some people that's more accessible with their partners and some it's less accessible. But I think that, communicating and just really having the other person understand why this is important to you, they can get a better sense and maybe are more likely to like understand and be supportive.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, definitely, and it doesn't bother me to he's a meat eater, that's it doesn't bother me to have it in the house, I don't
Yeah.
have to do anything with it, but that that's his choice, that's how he wants to eat,
Yeah.
and that's okay too,
Yeah.
I can't make him eat my way, even though I think he should, but
Yes.
but
Yes,
that's not
exactly. We all want them to, and we think that they
yeah,
should. That is true. But I think, yeah, well, I talk about that all the time too. And like, we got to focus on ourselves and be an example. And if they are curious, and if he is ever curious or have a desire to do that, he'll know exactly where to go.
oh,
Because
absolutely, and like I said, there are, plenty of meals I could make that he
yeah.
really enjoys, um, so
Yeah, and he enjoys them because they're delicious, right? Not
oh,
because 'cause
they
they're
are.
plant-based, but
Oh,
it's just because
this
they taste so good because, well, our
yes.
food is just very tasty, so
It sure is.
okay, so there's a few other things that you said is, so you're batch cooking more,
Mhm.
and that is I mean, isn't that a game changer when you really commit to doing
Absolutely.
that?
When I can open the refrigerator and pull out, my protein, my soy curls, and
Yeah.
then my vegetables and delicious sauces that are from your recipes, and just I can make so many different things. I just make, components a lot of times also. That's
Yeah.
what I just did. I call it my batching, but well, it
Mhm.
is batching. I,
Mhm. It is. It's like and that's what I do a lot of times too, if I'm not following a meal
yeah.
plan. It's like sauce,
Yes.
dressing, soup, grains, beans,
Yep,
making sure you have plenty of veggies, and then it's like you have these things in your kitchen that you can just then make magic with when you get hungry. It's
yep,
such a game changer. So, good. Well, you're
yes,
getting back into doing that, such an important thing. And then you also said that you give yourself more love and patience. So,
yes.
can you talk about that a little bit and
Um,
what that looks like?
yeah, that looks like not feeling like I have to be perfect with this following this way of eating.
Mm,
Um, that if I want an exception meal, it's okay.
yeah,
It's okay. Just have it and move on
yeah,
instead of berating myself. Oh, why did you do that? and letting it spiral. Well, I might as well just have this, some cookies then with it, and
yeah.
um, just saying it's okay. You don't have to be perfect because you preach that a lot.
I do.
It's not perfection, but progress. Progress
Yes.
over perfection, and that's huge.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how uh, some people need to hear that more times than others, which is why I'm always talking about it because I'm like,
Mhm.
maybe this person is going to need to hear it 70 times before before something can start to shift. Maybe, because we're all at different places with that. But it's interesting how once you kind of hear it and you're like, well, okay, maybe I can give this a try. Maybe I don't need to beat myself up. Maybe I can, you know, kind of not follow a guideline or eat something that isn't kind of on plan and be okay with it. It's interesting how doing that enough times does eventually translate into more love and patience for yourself. And it's like that sort of the groundwork for developing this new kind of more loving relationship with yourself. And I think it's more accessible to do it that way than if I were to say, okay, just love yourself. Cause I think a lot of people are like, well, how? What does that mean? Right.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas if you can find like an action, okay, I'm going to allow myself to be imperfect and not beat myself up. That's kind of more tangible. Like I'm going to try that on. And through
Yep.
practicing that, it does foster more patience and more love. So, um, can you explain kind of how that feels for you versus what you might have been doing before, which is like you said, kind of berating yourself and spiraling?
It feels like lighter, if
Mm,
that makes sense.
mhm,
I'm not I don't feel like I'm carrying so much weight around because I think I
yeah,
that stuff just piles up and, drags you down, I guess.
yeah,
All those little things that we say to ourselves or say that are bad,
mhm,
that's another thing that you talk about a lot. Nothing is bad.
mm,
Um, so it feels lighter. It feels better.
yeah.
And probably not the right words,
No, I
but
mean, absolutely, it is if that's what you're experiencing. I agree that it is later because 'cause you're literally aren't dragging that stuff around with you anymore, and part of I wanted to call this Drop It Club for many reasons, and that's one of it. Because part of what we do in there is we drop shit that's no longer serving us.
mhm,
And so it's not just the actual weight that becomes released, but it's all of those stories. It's all of the baggage. It's all of that negative self-talk. It's like we are literally
yes,
dropping this stuff that is no longer serving us in order for us to be lighter. And lighter can be, just in how we feel in our head as we're going through our day. Lighter, there's many different ways to feel lighter. But so I think that you stated that in a really beautiful way, because when you drop that stuff that holds you down, it is like we are releasing something from our
Yes.
lives.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Okay, let's see. And then, um, yeah, you have your non-negotiables, you don't feel guilty, and you said you've been in our community since 2017, never perfect plant-based eater, but plants made up the majority of my diet. I always felt
Yeah.
alone in my plant-based journey, and Drop It somehow made me feel like I wasn't alone. That's so great, and I really wanted to talk with you because when I was developing this program, like, everything that you said in your email and that we're talking about here was like, s that's what I had hoped for. I had really,
Wow.
really hoped for that because, I think, and I was just talking about this with this other person I was just doing a podcast with, and the diet culture can be really toxic and really predatory and really manipulative and really kind of not nice. And I had hesitated starting something like this for many years because I didn't want to add to that. I didn't want to
Huh.
be part of that. But the more that I thought about it, the more I'm like, there's so much more to it than the weight. And if I can have some small part in helping people love themselves more and developing a more positive relationship with their body and dropping some of the habits that are, and, negative thinking that no longer serves them, then I think, that'll be worth doing. And so I really went into this not just about weight and really understanding that there was a lot more possibilities for people to like make their overall life easier and more loving for themselves. And so when I get this feedback, it just really brings so much joy to me because that's why I wanted to do it. And so I really
Huh.
thank you for sharing all of the things that, all of the ways that you had benefited from it. And like you said, you released 10 pounds and you're still doing it.
11 now.
11 now, right? And it's still going in that way, but like it
Yes.
was, it's not just about that. So,
No,
um,
it's about so much more. And
yeah.
again, thank you so much. This program is wonderful. I I hope everybody can take advantage of it. It's life changing.
Oh, well,
It
thank you
really
so
has
much.
been for me. So
I'm so happy, and I'm so happy that you trusted me and that you said yes to yourself, and I am just, I'm thrilled. Being an ex-drinker, whenever I hear somebody like, okay, I was ready and I did it. I'm so happy for them because I know um, that even with that, life is a lot lighter and life is a
hmm
lot easier. And so, and there's so many ripple effects from that,
yes,
right? Just how you're feeling. And then when you start to go to the gym, you're going to have more energy. And then when you have more energy, you are going to be batch cooking more. And when you batch cook more, you are going to be eating healthier. And when you eat
yep,
healthier, you're going to have more energy. So it's like all of these changes are just this beautiful domino effect in the most positive way, and one that there's so much possibility. It has so much possibility. And so I'm thrilled for you, and I hope that you keep us updated and keep us posted,
thank
and
you.
I wish you all the best.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Did you know that Clean Food Dirty Girl has a club? We do. It's called the Clean Food Dirty Girl Meal Plan Club. And if you want to eat more plant-based meals that are delicious, that are damn good, that will have you craving them, if you want to feel energized and healthy from head to toe, if you want to save time in the kitchen each week, if you want to use all of the groceries that you actually buy, and if you want the omnivores in your life to say, yum, to the plant-based meals that you're cooking, you have got to join us. Go to cleanfooddyrtygirl.com, and on the homepage, you can find out more. I would love to see you in the club. It is the best. Come find out what all the buzz is about. It is life-changing, and I would love to have you. Thank you for listening to this podcast and for being in our sphere. If you can rate and review this podcast wherever you listen to them, that would be badass. Thank you so much for spreading the dirty love.